Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a really good week. Sorry, I am just posting tonight. But for my discussion number two, I chose the question, how does technology enhance learning? And then after this question, I will go into kind of what we do at my middle school. So the first thing for you guys, this is a Wordle. If you have not used Wordle.com in your classroom, I would suggest that you would use it. It's a place where students can take buzzwords and put them on a document and load it onto the program. And as you can see right here, any of these words that are bigger, those are common words that the students used. And it just kind of shows you, again, what their thoughts are. The program allows the students to collaborate and communicate. And one thing that I found is it really opens the door for discussion. So again, there are many words on here that you can look at and read and kind of take the time to think about, but this just kind of gives me an overall idea of why I use technology in the classroom and how I think it enhances learning. So these next couple slides, I'm going to be giving you reasons why I think it enhances learning. And the first, collaboration. As I utilize Google Classroom inside my classroom, I have found that Google Classroom opens the idea and allows students to collaborate more freely. So I have links on here, and this one's going to take you actually to a document on my Google Classroom from summer school. And my kids, I'm teaching a class called Urban Infrastructure. So one of the things that they have to do is they have to build a day at school at the end of our 4 weeks. So they had to work in groups of 4. And so the first question that I posed to them is, what are 5 big ideas for your school? What must your school have in order for it to be efficient? So as you can see, they each had their own box that they wrote in, and they put their 5, 4, 5, 3, depending upon how many they had in the 5 minutes I gave them, ideas of what their school needs in order for it to function. And after that, then they actually had to come together, they had to talk, and they had to decide what are the 5 key ideas, what is most important. And so this group came up with gardens, many windows, solar panels, lots of trees for cleaner air, and reusable resources. So during their time while they were working, not only did they have time to work on their own, but then they got to come together and on the same document could see each other's ideas and then come up with top 5 things for their school. So again, this is just one of the ways that you can foster collaboration in your classroom. But for me, I find Google Docs a great resource for this reason. So the next one, besides collaboration, the next one is communication. I truly believe that incorporating technology into the classroom really builds the lines for communication. That document that I just showed you before, the students took about 10 minutes to combine their list together to find out what they wanted for their dream school. And they were not talking about sports outside of the classroom. They were truly talking about the assignment and really getting involved in it. So another link that I have for communication, this is going to take you to Padlet. I'm so sorry, I am not signed in, but if you have not used Padlet before, that is an open board system that you can use to have your students talk to each other. And there are many times when I will just stop a lesson and I will put up an open Padlet and I will pose a question, something about what we were learning. It could be from a discussion question on what we have read. It could be just a question of what you learned today. It could be a question on what you need more help with. But the students will comment, and then they're also allowed to comment on each other's ideas. And that just gives me more of a clear version of what they need. So it's a great communication tool for me, and then it's also a great communication tool for them to talk to one another. So I believe that technology enhances the learning environment because it teaches the student responsibility. When you go to my Google Classroom, which this is from this current year, Urban Infrastructure, and my students are 8th graders, so they are getting ready to go to high school. And as you can see on Google Classroom, it allows you to set due dates. It also allows you to set times. So the students know when I assign homework, they can access Google Classroom 24/7. And it just teaches them that when I set due dates, those are definite and they have to meet those due dates. So they need to take the class seriously. They need to take Google Classroom seriously. So again, as you can see, I have a lot of Google things on here. We're a Google one-to-one school. So a lot of the examples that I show you tonight are going to be through Google. But again, getting back to the discussion, it just teaches them the idea of responsibility and taking initiative for their. So besides responsibility, it also allows all students to learn. I have co-taught classes, meaning I have many students that have IEPs. And when I am creating something on Google, I am constantly thinking about all of my students. And most of my students do not learn through just textbook and paper, especially when we're focusing on grammar. So I like to create little creative activities, such as they had to do a album cover, they had to do a soundtrack. And the first thing that they had to do is they had to write an autobiography. And what I did for them is we talked about grammar through their autobiography. So when they were writing their 6 to 8 sentences, they were using complex compound sentences, and we would revise and make sure that they were understanding what we were teaching them. So even though there are students that struggled with grammar, this is something that they could see in front of them, and it really helped them learn the state standards. So again, this is on Google, but it just enhanced the learning environment. It helps all students learn besides just using paper and pencil. So moving on, one thing that I have found when I incorporate technology into my classroom is that it really helps with engagement. My students are constantly engaged through the assignments that I'm assigning. And with technology, the awesome thing that I am finding is my research papers or my compare and contrast essays or my persuasive essays, I can go outside the box and I can allow my students to pick their own topic because they can go out and they have the tools and the databases to find research. So again, I feel like they're more engaged in their learning than they ever have been before, which is an awesome thing because when they're engaged in their learning, they are wanting to give me a very, very well-written product. So again, engagement. Active engagement, as I said, it allows creativity and builds imagination. So I'm going to click on this link right here for you guys. So one thing that I am doing with urban infrastructure is it's about building in a city. And so my students are creating floor plans for their urban infrastructure for whatever building they're creating. And this program that I found, it is free. And this year, when I did Anne Frank with my students, instead of having them draw out what they thought the play and the stage looked like, they actually went and built the stage. And so this is just an awesome free website that I found, and it allows them to build. You can go in and you can add windows and doorways. And my students really loved it, and they really got into reading the play once they were able to go in and build their set. And they also loved because it allows it to go into 3D. Now, this is really bad, I'm sorry. But usually a house will have a door. But again, they were allowed to build first floors and second floors and create not only a building for summer school, but for during the regular year, it allowed my students to build a set for Anne Frank, which got them more invested in reading the play. So if you have not used this tool, I would recommend it. They really enjoy it in the classroom. And finally, it builds confidence with differentiation. As I told you, I teach the co-taught classes, meaning that a lot of my students have accommodations that they need inside the classroom. And all of my tests or quizzes are given on the Google Classroom through Google Forms. And so as you can see, we have this regular quiz over the giver. And then we have this quiz where it has page numbers. And on Google Classroom, I can assign it, and the students will not know that they are getting a modified copy. And one thing that I have found is that students with accommodations, a lot of the times they don't want other students to know that they're getting the modifications. And so this allows the students to have a modified test and take the test correctly so they can get a good score, and nobody around them has to know or see that they're getting modifications. And I have found that this has really helped with them, and it has shown a lot of my students have shown growth this year because of this. So again, this is just a tool that you can use on Google Classroom. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so getting back. So again, those are just the 7 reasons why I think technology enhances the learning environment. As I said, I'm a one-to-one teacher, so I use technology in my classroom at least 3 to 4 days out of the week. And may only be my 4th year teaching, but as I've gotten more comfortable with technology, I have seen my students flourish. I've seen them grow as I implement different programs into my room. I would encourage you guys to do so. And if you have any questions about any of the websites that I showed you or any of the documents I showed you, please just send me an email and I will help you with those. So finally, to the last question, what makes other teachers in your school effective with tech for learning? One thing that I started, I guess this is about 3 years ago, I am a STEM innovator. So I started a Google Doc. On this Google Doc, my 8th grade team records all the different strategies and tools and websites that they found online. And then I put them into categories. And then that document is a living document that the entire school can go and look and find websites that I've put into the different categories, and they can then utilize them inside the classroom. It just saves everybody time. So again, what makes other teachers in your school effective with tech for learning? We are all open to sharing with each other everything that we find. So here are just some reasons why. We are a one-to-one school, so everybody in our school has a laptop cart. The 8th grade is completely one-to-one, meaning every 8th grade teacher has a laptop cart, so our 8th graders are constantly on laptops. We share resources on Google. That's another reason why our school works so well with one-to-one. As I previously stated, I created that Google Doc, and everybody just collaborates and communicates together. Again, 2 of the main reasons why I think technology enhances learning. Another thing is we are always observing others. Anytime a teacher is using a new strategy or a new tool or a new website, we always send out emails and invite everybody in so they can come and see it. And then finally, we do research. We constantly are researching different ways and reasons how we can use technology in the classroom. So again, overall, it's a dedicated staff, our entire staff, especially our 8th grade staff. And since we are now one-to-one, we are dedicated to enhancing our students' learning. So the 2 tools that I'm going to show you really quick are 2 that are used by our 8th grade team. Powtoon was introduced a couple years ago by the Social Studies Department, and Storyboard That was introduced by my department. So Powtoon, what it offers, it's a tool for teachers. It's really just to break it down, it's making an animated cartoon. It's a fun video that the students can either work on together to create that collaboration or communication, or work on their own, again, just creating engagement. So this is an example of my students in my classroom. We were going over parts of speech. So students can choose backgrounds, headings, actions, movements, characters, and create a little video. Again, just to cover what we were learning, we just did parts of speech, but in the social studies class, they were doing different wars, and it really worked for the students. Storyboard That, it is creating comic strips. There is a free version that you can use. It only allows you to create 2, 3 box comic strips. But if you buy the versions, there are many different opportunities that the kids can have. But again, this is just an example. They are allowed to add headings. All of their characters can have text boxes and text bubbles for them to talk. It's customizable, and the students really enjoyed it. We were doing the idea of the Odyssey. But again, these are just 2 tools that we use in the classroom. So again, just to get back to the question, what makes other teachers in your school effective with tech for learning? Some teachers are beginners. Some teachers, like me, have been using technology in the classroom for their entire teaching career. But what makes all the teachers in my building effective is because they are all willing to learn. They are all willing to take time, and they're all willing to collaborate and share.